this was something that I wanted to start doing as a way to answer some of the questions that I get. Because, sometimes there's questions that people have, but they don't, well, sometimes, it's questions that people don't know to ask. Like they're so new to something that it's like, I don't even know what I don't know to realize that's a question that I needed an answer to. So not only to remedy that, but also to say, um, to kind of put to rest or clarify some of the older questions, questions I've been getting for a while that are like, I see really screwing a lot of people up, basically, where it's like, okay, if you think that that's true, you're really going to mess up your literary career or you can get off to a really bad start. And again, it's pretty easy to, avoid. But again, like I said, when you're just getting into publishing or writing or whatever, it's just like I said, you just don't know what you don't know. So that's fair. And that's why I wanted to try to do some of that. So I guess I'll go ahead and start with the question that I got um, recently that, I mean, it surprised me, right? I was like, oh, I didn't know that you didn't know that, basically, right? Well, actually, I'll go ahead and throw you a bonus one. There's one I did get years ago that is kind of on a similar vein where it like surprised me. And so that one was basically the person said, so for example, their book had just come out, and when you're on Amazon, your book comes out. Of course, you're going to start off at like, you know, 1 millionth, ranking or whatever in any particular genre or in the store overall or whatever. So fine. And my thinking is, okay, I grew up in the United States anyway, and I feel like we rank everything, right? Just we rank restaurants and sports teams and academic performances and just all kinds of things, right? So it never would have crossed my mind that someone who lived and grew up in the United States would not know what rankings were or how they worked. Like that, if you had asked me before this person asked this question, I just never would have, it just never would have crossed my mind, right? So this was the question. This author put out their book, and then they saw that, for example, they were 1 million, 200,000th in the Amazon store or in their category or whatever. And they asked me, when they would get their payment for the book sales because they thought that that number meant that they had sold 1.2 million copies of their book. And I was like, okay, that is, I'm just, you know what I mean? Like I said, I just never, I don't know that I ever would have looked at a ranking number and just, like I said, had that cross my mind. But again, everybody, different strokes for different folks, and everybody's been through different stuff. So it obviously was just something that this person had not really run into, or just like I said, maybe they ran into it, but they just didn't understand how it worked, right? So they thought the number one SEC team was the worst team because they only won one game or something like that. I think that might have been the way that they would have interpreted that. And it's like, okay, but no, like actually, that's not the way that that goes. So fair enough. And basically, all I did was, I just explained to them, hey, rankings work the exact opposite way, basically. And so what happens is you want to be number one. You want to be the lowest number possible because that means that you're in the top spot, right? You don't want a high number when it comes to rankings. Now you're right. For sales, you do want a high number. You want 1.2 million copies sold in, God, I think it had been like a week since they published or something like that. That would be fantastic. I would hope and wish that for you. It's just, that usually is not how that works. So yeah, so I explained that. So if there's anybody else out there that is struggling with that or didn't understand how that worked, then There you go. There you have it. Like, right. So you want, when it comes to rankings, again, not your sales numbers, you want to sell as many books as you can. That's fine. But when it comes to rankings, you want to be lower than everybody else. You want to be the lowest possible, which means number one is the best. So that's what you're shooting for. And again, it's nothing I would fret about, because at the end of the day, it's going to fluctuate. It fluctuates for everybody. Just as new books come out and more books are put on the market and people's preferences adjust and things like that, and certain things are trending and so on and so forth. So it's going to change over time. But overall, you just want it to be as low as it can be. And sometimes, you may be in a situation where that being 100th is about where your book is going to settle, or being 200,000th or whatever is where it's going to settle. It's totally fine. Because I think what a lot of people forget is there's like, I can't remember the exact number, but it's pretty high in the double. Maybe it's the single digits though. But the point is there are multiple millions of books on a site like Amazon, right? So let's just say there's 2 million. If you are in the top half of books that are selling, right, then all you have to be is number 1 millionth, right? That can be your ranking, and you're still doing better than half the people on the website. You see what I'm saying? So getting down into the single digits, especially for the website overall, but even in some categories, especially like romance, right, which is extremely competitive. If you are even in like the 10,000s or even the 6 figures, you're doing pretty well in most cases, right? So don't beat yourself up about not being ranked in the top 100 or something like that, because that really is just numerically, it's very difficult to do. It's not impossible, right? There are things you can do to try to help with that, but don't think because that's not where your book lands, especially if it's your first book and it's like the first few days or the first week or whatever after it launches, don't think that you're doing something wrong, or it's a bad book or anything like that. It's just, there's a whole lot of other books, right? And so again, your goal is just to try to get your ranking as high as possible, but it's nothing that I would like lose sleep over or anything like that, cry about, that sort of thing. Because like I said, number one, it's actually pretty easy to be doing better than, like I said, at least half the people that are on the site, half the books that are on the site, right? But then on top of that, again, that number is going to fluctuate. So even if you were to achieve a number one spot, you're not going to stay there forever. So it's a nice goal or whatever to have, and that's very cool because it is based on sales, right? A lot of people again, reviews are important, but I think sometimes, especially newer authors, put a little too much emphasis on reviews. And I've tried to show this on Amazon, where it's like you can go and look at, the top 100 in whatever category. And what you'll notice a lot of times is that the number one spot may have, let's say, 300 reviews, and then the number two spot may have 3,000 reviews. And so just as an example to show people like, okay, so you understand this is not the major determining factor, right? Because this is about which books are selling. So even if your book only has one review, if it's selling well, and maybe you're just not asking for reviews, or you're selling to people who just don't generally give reviews, whatever the case may be, that doesn't mean that it's not selling well. As long as it's selling well, it'll rank higher. That's it. Like it's pretty simple. Where things like reviews come into play is with helping people. It's that social proof, right? Like, oh, look, 300 people read this book and they liked it, so I might like it too. That's it. That's all. And it can help with sales. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, if you spend too much time trying to get reviews and not actually trying to get people to purchase the book, you might get frustrated because you're not seeing that increase in ranking that you're looking for. Because again, the book is not selling, and that's Amazon's main concern is, are you making us money or not, basically, right? And so if you're not, because you're giving away all these free books so that you can try to garner reviews, then your ranking is still probably going to stay pretty low or even decrease, because you're not actually selling any books. You're just giving them away. And yes, you're getting all these reviews, and that's wonderful. But then the other side of the equation, the one that's actually going to move the needle in most cases on your ranking is, okay, are you selling them though? Like, is anybody buying this? So that's something to kind of understand. I know I kind of went all around Mulberry Bush with with the rankings, but that's how rankings work, and that's usually on most sites what's going to move your ranking number is, okay, are you selling books, especially on a consistent basis, because you can have like bumps. I don't know, you did a show or you did a dollar sale or something like that, and so you may have a little bump in your sales for a short period of time, but that might not be as helpful as, say, so selling like 100 books in a day because you did some kind of deal might not be as helpful as selling maybe 20 books every day for a month, because overall that's going to be more books, number one. And number two, it shows that people are consistently interested in your book to the point that they are willing to purchase it. And so that often looks stronger and will be ranked higher than a book that just, like I said, when you run a sale every couple months or so, gets this nice little bump in sales, right? So think about it from Amazon's perspective. Basically, do I want these little one-off checks every couple of months, or would I rather have somebody who consistently brings me money in on a daily basis, even if it's a smaller amount? Because again, over time, that's going to add up, right? So even if you only sold, say, 10 books a day, you did one sale and you sold 100 books in January, let's say, right? Okay, so you sold 100 books for January, that's it. Versus you sold 10 books a day all 31 days of January. And so then you ended up selling 310 books. So do you see how that is going to be more attractive, right, to the algorithm and attractive to Amazon in general, because you're making them more money and you're making them that money consistent, and yourself that money consistently, as opposed to these little, peaks every so often. So, okay, that's the ranking thing. Now, the question, just to give you an example, this is like where this question is going us in a similar vein. The question was about the word each. And so I was really, like I said, just stumped. I was like, each. Oh, sorry. Okay. So each was a surprise to me, right? Because again, grocery stores, retail sites, Amazon, just wherever, like we use the word each a lot. So I figured, okay, again, it's just like the rankings thing. It's just nothing that I would have ever thought was something, somebody wouldn't understand. An adult, a 2-year-old or something, sure, but an adult and someone to my understanding, English is their native language. So those are the two kind of caveats, is age and whatever your native tongue is. But again, if you don't understand, and this was, I was sending somebody a quote, so it's like, so if you don't understand this, I can see where you get confused seeing the word each all over this quote, right? So, and again, all it means is every, basically, if you want to switch out the words, if that's a word that you know and understand. So if I say, okay, these books are $20 each, then that means every book that you pick up and put in your basket is going to cost you $20 when you get to the register. So if you pick up 3, that's $60. If you pick up 2, that's $40. So that's all it means. So when you see this on a quote or on a price tag or on a product page or whatever, that's what that means, is each and every one of those items is whatever price is posted. Again, it's no different from being at the grocery store. Some grocery stores, for example, sell grapefruits, right? And they sell them, I like grapefruits. So they sell grapefruit by the pound. Others will sell grapefruit by the piece. So one might say, okay, grapefruits are 75 cents per pound. Okay. But then another sign at another store might say grapefruits are $1 each. So at that store, every grapefruit that I put into my basket is going to be $1. And so if I put 5 grapefruits in the basket, I got to pay $5 when I get to the register. So that's how that works, if there's any confusion there. But like I said, that one surprised me. So as far as a question that is older, or that I mean, yeah, I've been getting it for a while. I've been seeing a lot about it lately, just kind of on social media and stuff. So that was why I was like, oh, okay, that would be probably a pretty decent first live related to this. And so the question is, in a nutshell, it's like, how do I, or what should go on, there you go, what should go on my author website? So I do usually recommend that people do author websites, unless, there are some circumstances where it's like, if you have a one-off book that's more of a personal project, I can understand where you don't want to go through the process of getting and maintaining a website. But if you are planning on publishing more books, your plan is to be a career author, or if your plan is to use this book to create opportunities for you to do things like group facilitation or lectures or things like that, then it would probably behoove you to go ahead and put up some kind of website, right? So, what should go on it though is really the question. And it doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be like something that you pay someone to put together for you. Even there are so many um, easy to use, just kind of drag and drop interface website companies around, right, where you can go and do that and honestly put up a website on your own within like 10 or 15 minutes. Like, it just doesn't, if you simplify, if you keep it basic, then it can be really easy and fast. um, but I think two things happen that get in new writers' way, and one is, like I said, they just try to do too much too fast. They're trying to be super fancy and sophisticated, and the book's not even written yet, or they've only gotten one book out, so there's just not, you know what I mean? Like, you're trying to put so much into it, but it's really not necessary, especially at this time, because you don't actually have that much to offer just yet, right? So it's okay to start simple and then grow as your career grows. For example, I started, and I usually tell people, just your bio, your cover, right? The actual book, the blurb for the book, and then just your socials, just like how people can connect with you, maybe your email address, if you have like a dedicated author email address, something like that. But all that can go on one page, and that's it. That can literally be the end of it. And so you don't even have to do orders and stuff like that if you don't want to. So some people have sites where they link to Amazon or Ingram or Kobo or wherever they're selling, that particular book. And then that way, when people click on the cover to try to buy the book, or if you put a buy now button or whatever, when they click on it, they go to that site where that store is located and they buy their copy from there, right? And so you're not handling shipping, you're not handling order processing, you're not handling taxes, you're not handling, all that stuff is taken, well, I guess depending on what platform as far as the taxes, but all of that stuff is taken care of. And that's all you have to do is just put it out there, and then you can direct people there when you're at shows or on your social media or whatever the case may be. Hey, go visit my website and buy my book. Boom. Other people want to do the packing and everything because they want to put like custom stuff like stickers and bookmarks, and they want to wrap it however they want to wrap it, so on and so forth. So if you want to do something like that, that's also fine, but you would need an e-commerce component to your site. So, like right now, we use Shopify. So, if you go and try to buy books on the website, that's the that's what'll be processing it. It's all going through Shopify. So, I will pack the book. I will ship it to you and everything if you order it directly from my website. But um, Shopify is like keeping track of everything and all of that, right? So you can do that. And again, if you've got the time, you've got the materials, you've got the desire to pack every order that comes in to you directly, that's totally fine. But that's kind of what that would look like. Now, you don't have to have a Shopify account per se, to do that. You can do that on WordPress, you can do that on, Wix or whatever. What I have found is just those, like, especially like Wix, it's like they charge you kind of, they do the ticky tack thing where it's like you kind of get this basic thing that's drag and drop, but then it's like every time you want to do something a little bit extra, like automatically calculate shipping cost, or um, send SMS marketing material, things like that. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's an extra X amount of money a month, or that's an extra fee, and this is an extra fee, and it can really add up over time. Now, a lot of sites do that. I'm not, getting down on Wix or anything like that. But when you go to a site like Shopify, a platform, that's what I should say, like Shopify, that is already like, that's what they do, right? Is e-commerce, or Square or something like that, where that's what they're all about, then you just kind of don't have to worry about that. Don't get me wrong, there are more advanced features that you can pay for, but the basic elements that you need in place just to, process orders it's all there automatically, right? And so you can do that, and then like I said, since your site would probably be pretty basic, you could just start somewhere like Shopify if you want to do direct orders and just have that one page and that one item in your store. You could bump it up though. Like I charge extra dollar for autograph copies of my books, right? So you could do something like that. Then that way you got technically two items, but it can be that simple. And so all I think you need, like I said, is your author bio. Just tell them a little bit about yourself. It's just a paragraph. It doesn't have to be some big long drawn out thing. Um, I would add your headshot. And again, it can just, my headshot's just a selfie. So just like it could be that simple, that straightforward. A lot of authors do that. Don't think you have to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a big photo shoot just to get some photographs. Like it's if you got the money and you want to do it, go for it. I'm just saying, I know what the economy is like, so it's just like, listen, don't think that you have to do that or you just can't have an author headshot. Then the book's blurb. So now I will say this, even if because some people are starting to put their websites up so they can go ahead and garner interest, start getting people on their email list and stuff like that before they've even finished writing the book, right? So I get the idea that you may not have a blurb. Now, if you follow the steps at, weekendpub.com, where I've laid out all these lessons, it'll encourage you to, have some sort of blurb or log line even ready for people so that you could put it on the site and you could have just a cover that's like a question mark or just kind of a quick mock-up. It doesn't have to be like anything fancy because, again, you don't have the final cover art necessarily. So you can put that up, put your blurb underneath that, and again, just a brief 2 or 3 sentence thing, or maybe the premise or something like that. And then that's kind of where I would put, a link to say, hey, sign up for my email so you know when it comes out or when pre-orders get set up. Or, I mean, if you're feeling froggy, you can go ahead and set up pre-orders and it'll be just like maybe a Google form list or something like that, where they can put their name and email address. And then when the book is ready for pre-order, you can email everybody that signed up and say, hey, if you're still interested, here's where you can actually go pay for your pre-order, right? So again, you got a lot of options there. And then the other critical component, I think, is just having links to your social media sites. So again, when you're just starting out, I think it's totally okay for you to have a single social media profile, especially on a platform where you're already comfortable, because I've from what I've seen, that just makes it a little bit easier for people to handle and manage. When it's like, if I spend all my time on, I don't know, Instagram, and that's where I have my personal profile and stuff and how I talk to friends and all of that, then it's just like, okay, we'll just make an author profile on Instagram since you're already familiar with and comfortable with that platform. Then as you grow, if you start finding out that it seems like more, you might have some decent traction on another site, then go for it. You know what I mean? Start a Facebook author profile, start a Blue Sky author profile, just whatever, right? But I think it's okay to grow slowly. I think sometimes when we get in a hurry, and I get it, right? It's exciting, it's fun, but sometimes when we get in a hurry, it actually causes us to stumble more than it causes us to set up a solid foundation for the rest of our authorship. So don't be in such a hurry that you actually end up hurting yourself. Like, it's okay to just be like, you know what? I'm going to, just start one thing at a time. I'm going to kind of connect the dots. I'm going to take my time and go at a comfortable pace. I don't need to be everywhere all at once. You don't have to have 17 different social media profiles. Most people don't have the time to keep up with all of that anyway. So it just, it's kind of like, what's the point if you're not going to do anything with it? It can be really awkward, let's say, to see that somebody hasn't posted on a profile in 6 months or something like that. It's kind of like, okay, so they're not really on here. All right, maybe I'll try to find them somewhere else or something like that. But you could have had a follower, extra follower there that may have actually engaged with your post, if you had just been relatively recently active, maybe even in the last week, but like when months have gone by and you haven't posted anything or reshared anything or anything like that, it looks like a dead account. So people are less likely to follow it, right? Like, because what would be the point if they never post anything? So those are the things that I would make sure are on my author website as like a brand new author just starting out, because I want people to know who I am. That's the bio and headshot. I want them to know what kind of stuff I write. That's the mock up cover and the blurb or the just single sentence summary. And I want them to know how they can connect with me off of this website if they want to. And that's where the social media profile, and if you have a dedicated author email address, not your personal email address, a dedicated author email address just for literary stuff, then that's something that you might put on there. So that's it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out, and I will add them to the next session. So 3 questions did pretty good for 30 minutes. So I think that's probably what we'll shoot for in the future, is having 3 questions that I can answer, um, just kind of preloaded. But again, of course, if people in the future are submitting questions during in the chat and things like that, then we can do that as well. All right. Well, this was fun. Have a good night.